Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about something absolutely wild in the worlds of both sports and cinema. How a blockbuster movie managed to create a totally fictional 11th team, APXGP, and actually drop it right into the middle of the real-life Formula One World Championship.
Okay, so let's just kick things off with a question that, honestly, sounds kind of ridiculous. In a sport this high stakes, this high tech, this high finance, could a made-up movie team ever actually share the track with the real deal?
Well, believe it or not, the answer is yes. For 2 whole seasons, the movie F1 wasn't just filming around the sport. No, it wove its fictional team, APXGP, right into the very fabric of Grand Prix weekends.
To really get your head around this, we have to start with the single most jaw-dropping moment of this entire project. A moment that just completely blurred the line between a live sporting event and a movie set.
Yeah, you heard that right. While hundreds of millions of people were watching the live broadcast, 2 fictional race cars, driven by actors, literally took their place on the grid and rolled out with the entire field for the official parade lap. I mean, that has just never, ever happened before.
Now, what's so fascinating is that there's actually a term that perfectly describes this whole thing: operational symbiosis. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but it's not just about filming on location. It means the fictional team was deeply embedded, physically and procedurally, having to operate under the exact same rules and pressures as the real teams. So, how did they pull this off? Well, it wasn't just about showing up on track for a single lap. To make this work, the production had to build an entire ghost F1 team from the ground up and place it right in the heart of the real F1 paddock. And we are not talking about some fake set piece tucked away in a corner somewhere. Nope, the APXGP garage was given prime real estate right there in the pit lane, sandwiched between Ferrari and Mercedes. This meant the entire film crew, the actors, everyone had to operate in the exact same high-pressure, high-security bubble as actual championship contenders.
And just look at the scale of this operation. They had the whole shebang. A fully kitted out pit garage, a massive hospitality motorhome right where the real teams have theirs, a functional pit wall with live timing screens. They even had private motorhomes for their drivers in the restricted area where the actual drivers stay. It was a complete F1 team. But having the garage and the motorhome, that was just the beginning. The truly unbelievable part was the level of access they got inside F1's most sacred spaces, places that are usually completely off limits to, well, to pretty much everyone. It was like the production kept asking for more and F1 kept saying yes. First, you have the actors, Brad Pitt and Damson Idris, standing in full race gear right there in the official lineup for the national anthem. Then, Brad Pitt actually goes into the super private driver's briefing and addresses the entire grid. And for the grand finale, they filmed the movie's climax on the actual Abu Dhabi Grand Prix podium right after the real champagne had been sprayed. Incredible. And this whole thing was so convincing, so seamless, that it actually started to mess with the heads of the real F1 drivers. George Russell from Mercedes even said he had to do a double take at Silverstone because for a second he almost forgot they weren't just new competitors on the grid. Which, of course, brings up the million-dollar question, right? How in the world did they convince a paddock full of the fiercest, most secretive, most competitive rivals on the planet to play along with all of this? It took an unbelievable amount of diplomacy. We're talking about all 10 teams on the grid, every single one of them, from bitter rivals like Red Bull and Mercedes all the way down to teams like Haas and Williams. You know how competitive this sport is? Just one no from a single team, and the entire illusion would have just crumbled. So how'd they pull it off? It was really a perfect storm of factors. You had the bosses at Formula One giving it their full support from the very top. You had producer and F1 legend Lewis Hamilton using his personal relationships to get everyone on board. The movie also guaranteed that no real team or sponsor would ever be shown in a bad light. And on top of all that, their planning was meticulous, so they never got in the way of the actual race weekend. Okay, so we've covered the how. Now for the biggest question of all, why? Why would a notoriously exclusive, multi-billion-dollar sport like Formula One fling its doors wide open like this? Well, a huge part of the answer starts right here, with the massive runaway success of the Netflix series Drive to Survive. It proved to F1's owners that telling compelling, character-driven stories was an incredibly powerful way to bring in millions of new fans, especially in a massive market like the US.
So you see, for F1's owners, Liberty Media, this was much more than just helping Hollywood make a cool movie. This was a calculated, strategic move. They saw a Hollywood blockbuster starring a global superstar like Brad Pitt as the perfect next step to blast the sport's popularity into a whole new orbit.
And when you put this project up against the legendary racing films of the past, like Grand Prix or Le Mans, you really see just how revolutionary it is. I mean, those movies were amazing, but the level of access and integration here is just on another planet. We've gone from temporary setups to a physical garage in the paddock, from zero race interaction to joining the actual formation lap. This project has totally rewritten the rulebook for authenticity.
So what does this all mean for the future? Well, it's pretty clear this has set a powerful new example. It's a whole new model for how sports and entertainment can work together, all driven by a sport's strategic desire to grow its audience. And it was only possible because of deep trust and incredible planning, fundamentally blurring that line between a live game and a scripted drama. It really leaves you with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? Formula One just proved that this level of integration is possible. So who's next? What other sport is going to follow? And how is this going to change the way we consume both our games and our stories?